in interesting times. Today's stories: Filipino World War II veterans honored in Sacramento. Philam National Historical Society Museum tells story of first Pinoys in U.S. Filipino educators meet embassy officials in D.C. and express support of campaign against trafficking teachers in the U.S. Philippine ambassador says Build, Build, Build is one of history's boldest, most ambitious infrastructure programs. Plus, the Iglesia ni Cristo Aid to Humanity reaches out to children in American Samoa. Hello everyone, I'm Lonnie Valdecantos, bringing you stories from around the globe, and this is Eagle News Washington, D.C. Weekend Edition. Filipino World War II veterans are recognized and awarded the Congressional Gold Medal in Sacramento. Eagle News correspondent Macy Membrere with the story.
The first Congressional Gold Medal Award ceremony in honor of the Filipino veterans who fought in World War II was officially presented in the U.S. Capitol on October 25, 2017. Since then, many regional presentations have occurred.
That's why all of these ceremonies are happening. We're trying to, different regions are trying to make things happen and recognize their elders while they're still here.
Part of this historical fabric of American history, and if we don't celebrate them, we forget that history, and the history won't be told to future generations in our posterity. So broadly speaking, that's why this event was held today.
Today at the Secretary of State Auditorium in the capital of California, many people gathered to commemorate 60 Filipino veterans or their family representatives with the Congressional Gold Medal Award for their sacrifices and contributions made.
This event focused on our living veterans, and of course all of those who've passed away since, and also those, of course, who died during the war. This event is for them. Without their heroism, without their bravery and sacrifice, we would not be here enjoying our freedoms and our liberty. You have to remember that the Philippines was part of the United States at that time. So when they fought, they were not just defending their homeland, they were defending the United States of America, and they were, of course, hand in hand too with American soldiers as well.
It's very important to me to share this story to my children and grandchildren, because my dad fight for the United States of America side by side and to defend our country.
It was 1 year since we honored the veterans in Washington, D.C., and I was fortunate and blessed to be at that event in Capitol Hill. And I will tell you, with this event and that event in Washington, D.C., the same emotion took place here.
As a child growing up, you wonder if it's real, because there's nothing in the school books, there's nothing in the history books that validates it. It's only what you hear from your grandfathers, your parents, your family. So the importance of this to the Filipino community and to the families is finally, seeing the people that you respect, that you love, just be recognized. So it's gratifying, it's emotional, and it just happened too late, but you saw, during the presentation, there wasn't a dry eye in the house.
Today was filled with emotion as we remember the Filipino veterans who served in World War II. From the Secretary of State in Sacramento, California, I'm Macy Membrere, 1 with 25.
Thank you, Macy. Eagle News correspondent MJ Ricadio takes us to the Philam National Historical Society Museum in Stockton, California. Let's listen to some stories of the first Filipinos who stepped foot in the United States. Take a look.
Welcome to Filipino American National Historical Museum here in Stockton, California. Don't you know that October is Filipino American History Month? Let's find out. When Filipinos arrived in the US, they were industrious in a variety of career paths from farming, healthcare, military, entertainment, and more. Filipinos also played a part in union labor for equal rights. So Terry, why did we choose October as a Filipino American History Month?
Well, October was chosen for Filipino American History Month because of the first recorded landing of Filipinos here in the United States. In October of 1587, there's a recorded ship record of the Manila galleon Nuestra Senora de Esperanza that landed off the California coast.
According to the United States Census Bureau in 2015, the number of Filipinos living in America was 3.8 million, and the number is estimated to be more today. There are also a few Filipinos who have made recognizable contributions in entertainment like Bruno Mars, who won multiple Grammys early this year, Darren Criss, first ever Filipino-American to win Emmy in leading actor category, Mark Anthony Nicholas, who won his second Daytime Emmy as one of the producers of The Talk, plus Matthew Libatic, an Oscar-nominated cinematographer of A Star is Born, latest movie of Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper. Now Terry, talk about Filipino Americans in the mainland.
So most of them, once they came over from Hawaii, they would come to the California area or to the Seattle area. If they came to California, it was because of agriculture. They probably heard of other Filipinos working here and knew that they could get jobs. And what they called a stoop labor, because that was what a lot of the Filipinos did because no one else wanted to do it, basically. So they worked in the lettuce in Salinas, they would work in asparagus in Stockton, they would work in grapes down in Fresno or Delano area. Anywhere there was jobs, that's where they would go to. They would follow the crops and they'd go from season to season to whichever area they could find a job.
Hi Chris, let's talk about the Filipino Americans in military.
Okay, well they have a long history. It started in the Navy, and joined when the Americans came, took possession of the Philippines. The Filipinos decided that that was their segue to America, joined the Navy. Although, they created the Filipino Scouts, and one thing led to another with their military service, the advent of World War II. In America, the Filipinos felt the need to go back home and defend the homeland and to take it back from the Japanese. Well, they created the first Filipino infantry, which led to the second Filipino infantry, because there were so many patriots that wanted to join and to take the homeland back. So, the history of Filipinos in the Navy starts in the late 14th century, joining the Spanish with their naval conquest, and up to World War II and to the present day.
Reporting from Filipino American National Historical Museum here in Stockton, California, my name is MJ Ricardo and I am one with 25.
Thanks, MJ. Coming up, Filipino educators meet embassy officials in DC, express support of campaign against trafficking teachers in the U.S. And Philippine Ambassador says Build, Build, Build is one of the history's boldest, most ambitious infrastructure programs. Eagle News Washington, D.C. Weekend Edition will return in a moment. Welcome back. You are watching Eagle News Washington, D.C. Weekend Edition. Filipino teachers from Maryland and D.C. gathered at the Philippine Embassy for a town hall meeting organized by the Philippine Overseas Labor Office in the U.S. Capitol, or the Polo, Washington, D.C. This is the third of the Polo, Washington, D.C. sponsored meet and greet series, providing Filipino workers an avenue to raise concerns. Issues brought up were trafficking of Filipino teachers in the U.S., exorbitant fees, and other unethical practices of recruitment agencies in the Philippines. Ambassador Jose Manuel Romualdez said the very good image given by Filipino teachers is the kind the country would always like to have. Consul General Renato Villa said the contribution of Filipino teachers to the Filipino community and to the American schools is beyond question, but the teachers must remember to secure their retirement through Pag-ibig, SSS, and other social service institutions in the Philippines. Josephine Tabaya, a welfare officer, reminded the teachers to renew membership with OWWII or the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration. Philippine Ambassador to the U.S., Jose Manuel Romualdez, joins an Indo-Pacific infrastructure panel in Washington, D.C., and says the Philippines' infrastructure investment plan, called Build, 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 is one of the boldest and most ambitious infrastructure programs in history. In a forum entitled Building the Indo-Pacific, ASEAN Stakeholder Forum held at the Stimson Center, Romualdez said, in 6 years, the Philippine administration's goal is to invest $170 billion into the country's infrastructure development and spend 7.4% of GDP by 2022 on infrastructure alone. Romualdez added, underinvestment in infrastructure produced a large gap that resulted in congestion and inefficiency. He said that gap is sought to be corrected by investing in 75 key strategic infrastructure projects over the medium term, and that Build, Build, Build is a gathering momentum. The panel, moderated by Stimson Center Southeast Asia Program Director Brian Eiler, was composed of Ambassador Romualdez of the Philippines, Deputy Assistant Secretary of State Roland de Marcellus, Thai Deputy Chief of Mission Busara Kanchalai, and Vice President of Alpha Technologies Paul Schmataloka. The Iglesia Ni Cristo's Aid to Humanity reaches out to children in American Samoa. That's next. Eagle News, Washington, D.C. Weekend Edition will return shortly. This is Eagle News, Washington, D.C. Weekend Edition, and I am Lonnie Valdicantos. In its effort to reach out to economically challenged and calamity-stricken communities around the world, the Iglesia Ni Cristo, through its project Aid to Humanity, continues in American Samoa. School-aged children received free clothing during an INC's aid effort in Pago Pago. Eagle News correspondent Felcy Ogayan reports.
1 year since the first Aid for Humanity project in American Samoa was launched, members of the Church of Christ in this part of the world continue their acts of generosity, this time intended for the children. A free clothing drive was held at the INC's place of worship in Pango. Visitors young and old took advantage of the opportunity to receive nice clothes that they needed for school, work, or other occasions. Visitors were also treated with some refreshments to counter the heat and humidity as the summer season approaches in this time of year in the South Pacific.
The Aid for Humanity in American Samoa is just one part of the global church's effort to extend aid to the poor and those affected by recent calamities in various parts of the world. Reporting from Pango in American Samoa, this is Felcy Oghayan, and I am one with 25.
Thank you, Felcy. That is Eagle News Washington, D.C. Weekend Edition. Join us again next week for stories from our bureaus around the nation and around the globe. Visit our websites at Eaglenews.PH and EagleNewsLive.com. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/EagleNewsPH. Thank you for watching. I am Lonnie Valdicantos, and I am one with 25.